Twist the tongue. BENSON. Some nights the people of our village clustered around the fire to hear the elders speak of the days when we were not yet born. I began to understand many things about my area and my people and how our life became what it was. I learned that long ago the Arabs from northern Sudan came south as traders of salts and clothes. They traded with the Nubian, the Bagara, the Fwang, the Fur, the Kababish, the Beja, and many other plains and hills tribes. They gave clothing and salt to the chiefs so that they would be allowed to live there and trade. They told the chiefs about their God, Allah. Many chiefs converted, and many tribes converted too. Our elders told us that Islam kept spreading southward until it met the largest tribes, the Dinka and the Nuer, the tallest and the blackest people in Africa. They resisted this new religion because Islam was complicated, and as cattle keepers we didn't have time to be meditating with the Quran 5 times a day. Later, the discussions among the adults grew angry, especially when they talked of the government. They said the northern government wanted Islam to spread throughout Sudan because the northern land was all desert sand, and they were jealous of the Dinka and Nuer territory between the Blue and White Nile rivers, which was the most fertile in all of Sudan. Our elders were upset that the government was telling the Islamic northern tribes that they should own cattle like the Dinka and Nuer, encouraging the converted tribesmen called Mirhilian to attack the villages and steal cattle from the Dinka tribes closest to the north. They called these attacks the Harpoon Wars because the Mirhilians came on horseback, carrying one big spear that looked like the harpoon used for killing a hippopotamus. My tribe, the Dinka Rek, and many more central tribes did not encounter a lot of hostility from the Mirhilian, just some cattle stealing, until the government declared Sharia law for all of Sudan in 1983. I was only a little boy and did not understand this Sharia law. But I heard the adults talking at our house, talking in the village, talking while they worked and talking at meetings. They cannot make us pray to their God, they said. We have too much to do with our cattle, our plantations, and hunting. There is no time to pray 5 times a day. The men were angry. They also said, they cannot force us to do this thing to our women. We love our women. We will not cut them like the castrated calf. I was puzzled by this. Women did not have the parts like us boys or the bull calves. I asked Nunu, my oldest brother. It is circumcision, he explained. I remembered my own circumcision and still did not understand. Sometimes my mother liked to visit her sister on the other side of the Nile River. That summer, when there was too little food, she left me with my older sister, Ngong, to take care of me and said that she was going to come back with some grain. But a long time passed, and she did not return. I cried, disturbing my sister. Ngong, where is Mom? She went to bring you food. Where? She pointed her finger in the direction my mother had gone. Ma, come back! But there was no sign of her. Take me to her. I can't. There was an overflowing of River Nile, and she is cut off from returning home. Every day I waited on the path, hoping to see my mother coming, but she never came because of the flood. Ngong sometimes joined me to call her. She did it to encourage me and stop me from crying. Still, I wanted to see my mother because I felt more comfortable around her than my sister. People passing by would ask, Ngong, why is he crying? He needs his mother. Take it easy, boy, they said. Quiet is better. It seemed to me like a year had passed, but Ngong said it had only been a few months. When she called one afternoon, Benson, come out, Mum is coming. And there she was, walking with a baby basket on her head. Ngang took the basket with my new brother, and my mother pulled me into her strong arms. "How are you doing, my darling?" I buried my face in her dress. When my father was home, I stayed close to him. He talked slowly and softly, and I liked that because I could understand everything he told me. He never punished me when I did wrong, but encouraged and teased me by talking about how my age mates from the neighborhood did things better than me. He'd sing, "You are lazy like a pumpkin. You wait for your mother to cook you food, then eat and fart loudly while you sleep." His big adid, which my mother had woven from a plant that grew in the Nile waters and covered with gazelle skin, was long and narrow. He stored his money and carried everything in it, even used it as a pillow when he was sleeping. He liked to go into the big cities, but he never bought for himself the city shoe. He wore sandals made from car tires. Every scrap of cloth he found on his journeys, even the smallest, would go into his adid. While sitting and talking with people, he would sew pieces of cloth together into shirts and underwear, nodding his head, going, "Mm-hmm," so that they knew he was listening. On one trip to town, he returned with a shiny, soft pair of red shorts for me. I'd never seen anything so beautiful in all my life. He said they were underwear and made of nylon. I didn't care about that. I especially liked the dark blue stripes that went up each side. I wore them everywhere. The only time I took them off was when I was taking a bath. My family had a traditional belief. Once during the night, hyenas were hunting when they encountered an ailing male lion wandering about near my great-grandfather's village. The hyenas circled the lion. They howled threateningly, and the lion knew he could not win this fight, so he ran into my great-grandfather's house to save his life. Great-grandfather chased away the hyenas and protected the sick lion. Early the next morning, he offered a lamb to this wounded lion and opened the door for him to leave the house. Later, when famine came, the lion killed an antelope and dragged it to my great-grandfather's house in gratitude. My great-grandfather became friends with the lion. Our family lineage honored this partnership. The lion would not harm any of our herds. Instead, he protected them, and the family members gave the lion an animal to eat as a reward. My father had grown rich with cattle, goats, and sheep when a ferocious lion began massacring our animals. This lion had broken the old covenant of friendship. My father said that a lion who attacked any of our family's animals must be stopped. He and my uncle Ding took a very fat and clean black castrated he-goat into the jungle and tied it to a tree. If the lion ate the offered goat, then he would not savage all our family's animals. Day and night, everybody in the village heard the goat crying, but the lion would not take the offering. Other predators like hyenas, leopards, pythons, and cheetahs knew that according to the rituals, the goat was a gift for the lion and that the lion was around protecting the goat from being eaten. After 3 days, Uncle Ding told my father to bring the goat home. It was winter time. The grasses were as high as the adults' necks. The crops were ripening, and the pumpkin strands had spread their smiling yellow flowers in all directions. That morning, when my father returned with the goat through the tall grass, he didn't see the lion shadowing him. After putting the goat back in the pen with the others, he went off to the domino tree where the men of the village played. "Help!" a neighbor screamed at the top of her voice. "Meow!" The animals cried as the lion jumped from one goat to another like a kitten playing with its toys. The men rushed to the cries. When my father finally arrived, he saw many of his animals lying dead, and the others so scared they'd thrown away their dung. My father was as angry as a snorting bull, ready to fight over a mating cow. "Help me kill this lion who has refused our offer of friendship," he demanded. The other men refused. It is a sacrilege to harm a lion according to our family rules. They left my father standing beside the dead animals with Chaim Brackish on the grass. The next time the lion attacked, Ninu, my oldest full brother, was watching the cows. "Damn it here!" he shouted when he saw the lion trying to scatter the cattle. "Where is it?" my father yelled back. The lion, hearing a grown man's voice, disappeared into the tall, thick grass. My father tracked its paw marks and saw that the lion wasn't going anywhere, just circling around our village from one bush to another and disappearing into our plantations. My mother locked us in the hut while my father threw stones trying to rouse the lion. He could hear it wrestling through the sorghum stalks. Only adults were outside, and the women's worried voices rose and fell with the lion's movements. "What is he doing?" I asked. My sister put her index finger to her lip and said, "Sss, don't talk or make noise. Dad is going to fight the ferocious monster." "Fetch my spears," my father said. "Dad," said Ding Makuan, his oldest son by his first wife, "I don't think only 2 of us can fight a lion." "Son, the covenant has been broken. I have to kill this lion." Seeing my father's bravery and resolve to battle the beast, my uncle Ding and 2 neighbors, Turmakui and his friend, offered to help. Ding Makuan came into the house to get 10 small spears and the harpoon used to hunt large animals like elephants, buffaloes, and lions. The hunters split into 3 groups: Uncle Ding, a very strong man, alone, the 2 neighbors together, and my father and Dinka Makuan, each of the 3 groups tracking in a different direction. My father and Dinka Makuan followed the paw prints through the tall bush to a ditch. When they looked over the lip of the trench, they came face to face with a big male lion. The lion was making his stand. My father motioned to Ding Makuan, "Step backward, son. Killing a lion needs fortitude and confidence to fight to the end." He went down on one knee and crawled forward along the rim. When he was directly above the lion, he flung a light spear at him with all his strength. The spear split the lion's left ear, stuck into his hip, and broke. The lion roared. Dinga Makuan stood back, shaking with fear. "I must harm the lion," my father said, "or he will harm me." The lion crept part way up the embankment, his yellow eyes on my father, who went into a crouching position, the only suitable way to battle the lion. That way, he cannot knock your face into the dust or bite the back of your neck. The lion's tail swung left and right, brushing the ground and raising a cloud of dust. My father took a second spear from his left hand and shook it menacingly with his right. The lion roared and stayed in the posture of a hunting cat ready to jump on a mouse. The whole village heard it. Dinga Makuan tried to shout out for help, but he was made voiceless by fear. The 2 neighbors who were helping climbed a big baobab tree. My father threw the second spear, aiming for the midpoint of the head. The lion dodged and charged, but my father quickly separated the harpoon from his left hand and held it with his right. The lion leapt up and onto him, scattering every spear out of his left hand over the grass. My father lay flat on the ground, with the lion's foreclaws dug deep into his chest. The lion paused. My father still held the harpoon in his right hand. He and the lion stared into each other's eyes. The lion opened his mouth wide to bite his throat, and my father plunged his left hand into the lion's mouth and grabbed the tongue. The mouth was dripping slippery saliva, but with all his strength he twisted and folded the tongue so that the lion could not bite down. With his right hand, my father pressed the harpoon into the lion's belly until it gored him through the navel. Then he jerked his left hand from the mouth and pushed the lion off him. It rolled down into the trench with a stream of blood oozing and the spear sticking out of its stomach. It moaned and could not move. Dinga Makuan's voice worked at last. "Oh, oh, 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 he killed it! Dad killed the lion!" He went down into the trench. Everybody, come and see!" All the villagers heard him, and all those men who weren't brave enough to approach a live lion showed up and stabbed the dead one, saying, "You deserve it, monkey ass. Ding Myomitit sent you to your lion graveyard for messing with his animals. You are a resolute man," the elders told my father. They splashed some water on him to clear the blood away, but he was bleeding badly where the lion's claws had torn his chest. That night, the men voluntarily carried him on their shoulders to a clinic in a town 2 hours away. From there, they transferred him to a big hospital in Wau. But that was not the last of the Lion War.